The French artist Chiclet has a painting that portrays the prodigal story. It has the father kneeling down as his son has broken down before him and is welcoming home. And he's reaching out his arms, and the son is on his knees begging for forgiveness. And in the background, the eldest stands like this. And I simply look at that painting, and constantly over and over again in my spiritual journey, I look at that painting and I say to myself, where are you? Where are you in this story? You see, I believe when the gospel writer wrote this story, he was speaking to the scribes and the Pharisees who were in the temple while Jesus stayed with those who were sinners, and not quiet sin, but sin that the community knew about. Sin that everybody would walk along and they would say, basically if they could, they would say, unclean, do not go around this person. The whole city knew. And it was those kind of people that Jesus was hanging around, but yet preaching this message of forgiveness and love. And the scribes and the Pharisees of the temple were saying, look at this. And Jesus responds with the story of God's love, and that story is for our community even today. Even today, I want to ask you the same question I ask myself when I look at that painting. Where are you? If you hear the prodigal story, where are you? Are you the son who's asked for his inheritance and saw that it was split between you and your brother, and you gathered what you wanted from that inheritance? You gathered your 1/3, the oldest brother got 2/3, the younger brother got 1/3, and you decided that it was time to move on. Do you know what the youngest son said to his father when he asked for his inheritance? He didn't say, Dad, give me what is mine so that I can spend it now. What he said in a non-speaking way, he said to his father, you are dead. He disgraced his father. He spoke ill against his father. He spoke that his father no longer had influence or life in his life. Give me what is mine. And he took what was his, and he left. He left the family home. He left the family environment. He left the family love. He left the overseeing and protection of his father. In the ancient times, the father was the being of the house. It was his castle. It was his territory. It was his temple. It was his protection that you lived under while you lived there. And the youngest said, I want what is mine, because to me you are dead and this makes no sense. I am going into the world to make it on my own. Believe me, lots of us have said to God, give me what is mine because I can make it on my own. And we have walked away from what we understand to be the grace and the forgiveness that is offered in Jesus Christ. And we have gone out into the world and we have conned the world. And we have put out an image. And we have done things our way. We have walked out there and we have reaped the rewards of the world. We have fulfilled ourselves with the pleasures of the world. We have bought what we wanted. We've eaten what we wanted. We've drank what we wanted. We've been with who we want to be with. We've done all the things that our personal desires crave. And we've fulfilled and satisfied our every need. Some of us, when I ask the question, where are you? No, you're the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter. You know you've taken and you've wasted what it is God has given you. You know you've taken your talents and your gifts and you selflessly sustained yourself with all of those but what you have. What you really have. Or maybe some of us are like that good son. Where the good son is what the story's always portrayed, but he's always portrayed the good son because he stayed home. The good son because he was willing to understand that he inherited 2/3 of his father's estate. If you'll hear in the first text, he divided the estate between them. Please hear that, because that's an important part of this text. He divided the estate between them. Yes, the prodigal who took his third and went and wasted it in all of his earthly pleasures. But the eldest got his. The eldest got his too, but he stayed. He stayed in the protection, in the confines of the family home. He stayed in the family business. He stayed under the protection of his father's name. He stayed, but did he really? Did he really stay and support everything that the father was doing? Was his heart continually on with the father who was continually trying to build things up and develop a family place and a business? Was he in contact with that father? Did he know the father's business? Where are you? Some of us are that good person who stayed there and said, we've done everything right. We've been to perfect attendance in Sunday school. We've never missed a Sunday. We volunteer for Vacation Bible School. We witness on the streets. We've been across the world and witnessing and saving people. We've done all this stuff, but why have we done it? So that we can build up our resume? So we can make things look good? So we can say this is who we are? And maybe even some of us are the prodigal parent. We've had the child come to us and leave, or had the child just leave. We've gotten a call or gotten a text message or an email that says, we don't want to be a part of you anymore. I don't need you anymore. I don't need anything you offer anymore. And we stand at the road and we look down the road and we wait. But while we wait, we also have those feelings of contention for that child who has gone away, who has gone astray, because they don't quite fit into the picture of the child that we dreamed they would be. If we put the father in the story in an earthly essence, then we have to say there's heartbreak involved. Because the youngest was the favorite. The youngest was always the favorite in a biblical story. The youngest disciple was the favorite disciple. There had to be heartbreak. So I ask you again, before we get too deep into the story, where are you? Where are you in your journey that you identify with the story and something speaks in this story and you say, ooh, that's me. That's me. I remember when I know that I have. And I know that I've done. And I know that I have wasted what it is God has given me. I know that I have been selfish and building up only for my own intent. Somewhere along the way in our relationship with God, we somehow get distorted. We get distorted and we think that we live in this world for our own accord. We live in this world and we take advantage of opportunities in this world, whether they be right or whether they be wrong, because we want to build up our own self. We want things for us. We are a selfish human being. And we want things for ourselves. It started in the very beginning of time with the original couple, placed in a garden where only God could design, the Ritz-Carlton, if you will, of the gardens. God places them in there and He says to them, this is all yours. Go forth, multiply. Enjoy everything you can enjoy. But leave that tree alone. Leave it alone. Everything else is yours. The world is yours. And what do we do as people of God? What do we do as those who are included in the family, those who God loves, those who God has breathed upon us and His Spirit in us? What do? We run to the tree. We take our basket to the tree and we grab the fruit off the tree because God said we can't do that, but by God, we're going to do that. And we deny everything it is that God has put in us that is godly. We make mistake after mistake after mistake trying to be people of God, or at least trying to look like people of God. The prodigal story is a sad, sad story if you look at the state of humanity. And I'm going to say in the year 2019 AD, it's not any better. We are a cruel people. We are a selfish people. We are a people who want nothing more than for our political party to win, nothing more for our family to do good and be right, but because we need to look good and do right in community. We don't want people to talk about us. Our kids better not stray off. They better do everything we expect them to do. And yet behind the closed doors of our homes, we live in chaos. We proclaim to be Christian. We show up on the church pew. We sing the songs. But yet when things are quiet and internal, there's chaos. But what we have to remember is the most important part of this story. The most important part of this whole story. I could preach all day about the prodigal son who ran away. I could also preach all day about the one who stayed at home and thought he had done everything right and was jealous of the younger son who came home. And I can also preach from the point of being the prodigal dad, waiting for a child to come home. I've been all three, and you've been all three. You've been there. You've experienced the hurt, you've experienced the pain of being human. But don't run from it. What God asks us in this story is to admit who we are. To understand where we are in the story. What stage of life are we in? And remember, the greatest thing of this story is when you start to get into the details of it. I look at the Shickley painting and I see an ancient father who is down the road some way from his home. And he's on his knees embracing his son. Now, I don't know if you know ancient culture, but everything that's depicted in that painting, an ancient father would not do. If a child left the home and disgraced the family, that child was gone. That child was dead. And there was no coming home. And there was no father running down the road acting like a woman. Sorry, ladies, that's just the way it was written. And it was written that way on purpose. Because what it shows is that we have a God who has character. We have a God who is neither male nor female, but a God who understands love and what it takes to reach humanity. We have a God who has character in who God is. And you can call he or you can call she, but what you have to understand is that it is the divine being who reaches out to the divine being's creation, and the divine being wants nothing more than love. Than love. From the very beginning of time, God has wanted nothing more to be in relationship with God's creation. It happened. A tree out in the middle of the Garden of Eden. What's a tree? What's it look like? That's another sermon for another day. But there it was. The Garden of Eden. She was just doing what she should do, gather fruit for the family, carrying a basket. And the apples sure look good on that tree. Why can't we eat from that tree? If you're like me and you're a boundary pusher, just because you said so is not good enough for me. They ate from the tree. You notice I didn't blame it on her. They ate from the tree. Did God send lightning? Did God burn the garden? God walked amongst the garden. Read it, Genesis 3:9. God walked amongst the garden, looking for God's creation, and God asked one question. Where are you? Adamos. Eve. Where are you? God did not condemn. God did not rebuke. God did not throw lightning from heaven. God opened God's heart. God showed God's character. In the very beginning story that we ever learned from the Bible, we see a God who has character enough and respects God's creation to want to be in relationship. The story of the prodigal son is the same thing. The father's longing to see that son come home. He goes out of the house every day and he wants to And he looks down that road and he says, come home. When are you coming home? Why have you left the love I have for you? When? What's so good in the world that God's love is not good enough for us? What's so good in the world that God's grace isn't enough for us? Gary LeGrand, a good friend of mine from Amarillo, Texas, sings a song, Home at Last. And he says God's grace runs deeper than any mistake we could ever make. And it's the song about the prodigal son. God's grace runs deeper than any mistake you could ever make. Wherever you are, whatever road you're on, there is a God who's looking down that road and he's crying out, come home. Come home. There's nothing bad when you come home. There's nothing good that can sustain you. We're born with a hole in our heart, and that hole has to be filled with the Spirit of God loving us like only God can love us. It's a love that we don't think we deserve, but God says we deserve it because God presented the ultimate gift in Jesus Christ and said to us, come home. That's not what an ancient father does. God moved beyond. Jesus told the story beyond the norms of society. And he said the Father ran down the road. Do you hear what God's doing to get you home? If you just turn around for 1 second and say, God, I am done. I need to be loved. God's already there. God's run down that road. God's thrown those arms open. I remember the day that the phone rang in my house and my daughter said, Daddy, can I come home? She had told me she didn't want any part of us. Daddy, can I come home? Do you think I'd even get in my car and head down the road? Our God is the same way. Our God is a God who wants nothing more than to be in relationship with us no matter what we've wasted, no matter what we've done, no matter what we've spent, no matter who we've stepped on. God says to us, come home. Bring him home. Come home. And he throws a party. He doesn't just say, come home. He opens his arms and he wraps his arms around you and he calls out to all the people of the world and he says, bring me your ring. Bring me your robe. This is my son. This is my daughter. This is my creation that I have made, and they have come to realize that they are mine. And we are in relationship again. Let us celebrate. Let us kill the fatted calf, the most expensive possession I have. Let us slaughter it and have a party so that we can celebrate this one who was lost and is found. That's our God that works. That's our God that works. Our God even creeps into the dark, deep walls of the church and the different ministries that go on and the egotistical people that are involved in the church, and he sees us standing there going, oh. You see Sally Sue sitting over there in her third divorce and her second husband and blah, blah, blah. Her kids are into blah, 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 blah. And God loves her as much as me. I'll be in here every Sunday. I teach Sunday school. I'm chairman of the board. Blah, 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 blah. I've been preaching for 21 years. And God looks at us and says, my son, my daughter, don't you understand? Don't you understand that everything I have, everything, is yours. Everything. Eternity. You already know it. Quit playing this silly petty party game. You already know it. You've been loved for so long. Don't take my love for granted. You should be saying the same prayer that I'm saying for the ones who are lost. You're lost yourself. Won't you come in and celebrate? You see, the story is about an unconditional love that knows no boundaries. The story is about a God who's willing to do anything in the world to let you know that wherever you're at, whatever's going on in your life, God wants to be there with you. mistake you can make that is greater than the grace that's offered in Jesus Christ. There is no selfishness that's so strict that God can't break through that barrier and teach you to be selfless. We have a God who knows no limits. Do you know what God did for Adam and Eve when they found out they were naked? Where are you? You know what Adam's response was? I love him. He's hiding under a tree. And he's going, we were naked. And we didn't want you to see us? Really? And God says this to them, the same thing he says to the son at home. Who told you you were naked? He doesn't condemn. He doesn't throw those lightning bolts from heaven. He goes out to his son in the garden. You get it? Both places he goes out to his son in the garden. And he says to him, don't you know that you're loved by me? And that I'm enough for you? That the very first text says he divided the estate between them. Everything I have left is yours. Adam, who told you you were naked? Who said you were bad? Who said nakedness is an ugly thing? God didn't. God wants nothing but the best for us. And our God is willing to go to the distance of wherever you are. If you but for one moment open your heart and your mind and come to your senses to know that you are loved by God. That you might for 1 second think, you know, in my Father's house, I am loved. And I can promise you, there is a God who's standing at the road. There is a God who's willing to go out to the courtyard. There is a God who's willing to come to the garden. There is a God who's willing to come to your professional business. There's a God who's willing to walk into your school. And there's a God who's willing to walk into your church. And there's a God who's willing to walk into your house, into your bedroom, into the darkness of your closet. And a God who will speak to you and say to you, come home. Come home. What's your answer to the question? If you looked at the Shickley painting, what's your answer to that question? Where are you? And are you willing to come home? Turn. And he'll meet you down the road. He'll meet you in the garden. He'll meet you wherever you are.